All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Kim. We really appreciate you coming and working with the NESSA team and NESSA members and potential new NESSA members, talking about um, working with various personalities. Not want We don't want to lose any deals, right? We want to be able to walk into a client and understand their personality type so that we can close the sale and make our sales managers happy.
Yeah.
Um, so a little bit about NESSA. NESSA's been around since the late 1990s, and we have an annual membership drive that we do every year. And with the membership comes opportunities for networking, referral partner programs where we have a bunch of referral partners that have services that they offer at a discounted rate. So once you become a NESSA member, you can have access to those. There's also access to a scholarship fund, which there's usually two $3,000 scholarships that are awarded to NESSA members and or NESSA family members, uh, family of NESSA members. And that's a great opportunity. And there's also some training involved. We actually are going to be bringing people in to do training virtually and in person. We're going to have some in-person networking events. And the pricing structure is very, very economical. If you're an end user or a building service contractor to become a member of NESSA, it's $99 for the year. And you have access to all these things. If you're a distributor, your rate would be $199 for the year. And then if you're a manufacturer, it would be $299 for the year. And we want to take a special a moment here to recognize the referral partners that we do have with NESSA. When you become a member, you have access to all of these businesses that offer different types of services. And we're fortunate enough to have Kim here today from Cultural Apex Coaching, who helps people love to go to work on Mondays and helps to deal with all of the different personalities in the workplace. Um, and this is again the scholarship that's available, which will be up on our website probably within the next day or so. We did send out a newsletter. If you want to be on our newsletter, please put your contact information in the chat, and we'll make sure we add you to our newsletter so that you can be up with all of the things that are going on. And another member benefit is service first processing. If you need a merchant credit card company because you do continuous transactions with credit cards, there is a member benefit there and discount that you do get. Um, and last but not least, we want you to save the date for our annual golf tournament where you can sign up for a day of networking, food, fun, and fundraising. It's NESSA and Calico working together to put this event on every year. And we're very, very thankful for the relationship that we have with Calico Distributors located in Taunton, Massachusetts. They are amazing to deal with and work with, and they've been partners of NESSA for quite some time. So we're really excited about that. Um, the NESSA website's been updated. You can check us out on nessa-online.com. And if you have any questions, I also will put my contact information in the chat. It would be info@nessaonline.com. And basically, that's all about NESSA. But I'm going to take this moment. I'm going to introduce you to Kim Laughlin, the owner of Cultural Apex Coaching. And she's going to give us an amazing presentation on how we can deal with the different personalities when we're selling.
Right. Let me go ahead and share the screens.
I'm actually going to take myself off of video so that you can hog the whole screen, but I'll be here in the background.
All right. Does everybody see the screens well?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So it's interesting. I'm a former HR director, and we're here to talk about how to stop losing deals. And some people might say, well, if you were in HR, how do you know how to do that? So to tell you just a teeny little bit about myself, I was director of HR for over a decade. I've been doing leadership training and development. And what I've learned through all this is you can know your product, you can know your service, and you can know your organization really, really well. It's just really hard to get to know the people. And sometimes that's where the stopgap is. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So without any further ado, what we're going to do as we go through these slides, I want you to have an open mind. So I know that some of you probably have taken a personality assessment in the past. And I don't want you to want the one that you want. It has to be the one that you are. And as we go through them, I want you to think about the ones that you are. Also, there are two sides to each one. Each one is amazing. And we're all a little bit of each, but we always have a dominant one. There's a good and a not so good side to each one of them. And we're going to talk a little bit about those. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about each of the 4 personality styles, and these are communication personality styles that I work with every single one of my leaders that I talk to in sales, in any department. And this all applies. And we're going to really hone in on how this talks about sales today so that you can take this information and bring it to your folks. So there's 4 that I'm going to talk about. One is the driver. We're going to get into that in a moment. We're going to talk about an influencer. And it is, but it isn't the type that you see on Facebook or TikTok and all that. It's the type of personality that we're going to really dive into. We're going to be talking about those evaluators and another one called relator. And I want you to think about the one that you are, again, not the one that you want, okay? And as it pertains to how you're going to be aware of not only what yours is, but the other person's. So before we even get into it, it's hard without giving them an assessment, having them fill it out, giving it back to you, knowing exactly what they are. But I'm going to give you some tricks and tools on how to figure out what they are, whether you're talking to them on the phone, on Zoom, in person, what have you. So if you're the driver type, they are really, really, they're just, so I was learned a tough lesson with my CFO boss back in the day. I would go in with the Excel spreadsheet that they wanted, and I would go into all the numbers and why and all this. And he was just like, Kim, just give me the Excel spreadsheet. I don't need to know the story behind it. And I mean, I was a little taken aback. I was a little insulted, but that's just how he was. He wanted to get to the numbers. He wants the results. You don't kill them with the facts. They trust you, and you better give them the right numbers to get the right end result. Okay. So they might come off as dominating. They might be a self-starter. They're laser focused. They're that person where if you teach them something, they're going to go and they're going to do it. They're going to find a way to get it done. And most times, salespeople are these type. Okay. So that's a really good thing. But there's also areas that we want to be aware of and focus on as well. So they don't like it when there's inaction. Does this already start to sound a little familiar with yourself or someone that you know, right? Do they act quickly and they make decisions? They might make the wrong decision, but they made a decision. They're going to make them very quickly, and they're not going to be very theoretical about it. They're going to get down to that practicality, and they're not going to think of what's the hypothesis of all this. They're not going to get into that. They want the highlighted facts. They're those people, if you're going to go in and give a presentation to, you better get to the point and not the road that you took to get there. Okay. They already told you what they wanted. They want to get to the numbers. So they want you to get to the point with as little formalities as possible. Don't tell them about yourself and your family. Sorry to say it, but they just don't care. So let's talk a little bit about the influencer. So I want you to hold on to each one of these, and I can share this information with whomever you'd like. If you want this, please let me know, because as we go through it, for the sake of this presentation, it goes a little quick. Okay. So what I want to kind of talk about with the influencer is that person, when they walk into the room, they're like, hey, everybody, how you doing? You know, they're that one that gets on stage and does the speaking events, right? They love to verbally process their thoughts. They don't need to see all the details on the screen like that driver, right? They want people to express themselves. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And, you know, your client might be like that. Now, you might be a driver and you're looking to get to the point, but they're not. They're the influencer type. So you need to kind of manage yourself a little bit more so that you're matching their energy. And that's one of the ways to getting your step a little bit closer to the sale. Okay. They might be spontaneous with, you know, actions and decisions. They're like, oh, this is great, because in the moment, as they're talking to you, they're making decisions, and either taking left, taking right, or they're going straight at the same time. And they might be a little distracting to someone that's other personality types, because they'll be like, oh, this is great. This is great. They think big picture. They're the ones that, you know, when you give them details, they're like, oh, I'm kind of bored with this. I can be like that. I love to buy things all put together. My husband loves to put stuff together. So it annoys me because I have to sit here and watch him take extra time to put it together. But I'm that type, I'm the influencer, and another one here that we're going to be talking about. So I have to adjust my expectations so I work with the other personality as well. They like changes and innovations. They're not afraid to talk about, okay, what else is there? Give me some ideas. They need help getting and staying organized. So if you have someone that's really in the room and they're the ones that kind of getting off topic, but then redirecting and getting off topic and redirecting, they're the ones you have to say, okay, well, getting back to this, let's go ahead and talk about, the reason we're here. We have 30 minutes and I want to make sure that I respect your time. Does that sound familiar? Okay. And then they crave that interaction and human contact. So did you ever meet someone that maybe it was a networking event, it was any kind of a social event, regardless, and you said, okay, well, it was nice to meet you. And they just keep talking and they keep talking, and you kind of give them the exit moves behaviorally, but they're not picking up on it, right? So they're not aware of their own personality and they just want to keep talking. So there's a lot of work that I do with that as well, but those are influencer types. Okay. Those are the clients that might keep you there over the meeting when you got to get to another client. Okay. So they would be considered influencers. The evaluator is a tough one, but I would say it's the easiest one. They're the one in the room that doesn't say a lot. They take in all the information. They are intentional listeners. They want to know all the items of the data. They like organization and structure. They love Excel spreadsheets. They love to know where the numbers come from. What were the dots that connected us to get here? They're calm under pressure because they just want to sit back and listen and find out what's going on. So if you're talking to a client or a prospect that is just sitting there, not saying much, giving you one word answers as you're talking, they're just evaluating, they're telling you, they're just absorbing everything that you're saying. So I always tell anybody, maybe from a sales perspective, give more details to folks like that. That's going to give them the ability to make a decision without having to come back to you. Chances are evaluators are going to ask a lot of questions at the end so that they do not have to come back to you. Okay. So it's a little counterintuitive. If you're running out the door and they have more questions, you're out of a sale. You just have to say, you've been a little, it sounds like you're taking everything in. Do you have any questions? They might take a few seconds where there's that awkward silence and say, I do. Getting back to the first thing that you mentioned, because they have that in their head. They have that order of the order of operations of what you just said. And it's really interesting because now you're thinking, oh God, I got to get back to the head of the meeting that I was, what did I say? Right? So they're the ones that keep the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the order of the conversation that had happened. And they ask many, many questions about specific details. So if you can't understand who these people are, you ask people that know them as much as possible. We're going to get into that and how to find that out. But for now, let's kind of keep going. So a relator. I'm a relator and an influencer. I love to get to know people. I love coaching. I love one-on-ones. I love talking to people. I love psychology. I love it. And some people are like, oh God, I don't know how you do it, Kim. But I don't know how they do it with the Excel spreadsheets and the numbers and the completely organized folks. That's just not who I am. But it's wonderful to have those people in my life. So this type of client is going to be concerned with stability. Did you ever have someone that they're in a group of maybe 3 or 4 people that are decision makers? And maybe they are the only decision maker, but they want to make sure that things are happening in an orderly manner. You said that we were going to meet, then you said you're going to send the proposal, then you said this, that's going to help me come to a decision, and they're going to trust that that order is going to happen. Now, before I go any further, this isn't an exact science, but it's pretty darn close. So I just kind of keep that in mind. And they're going to act and make decisions slowly, but they want others' inputs. So for me, wanted to buy a new car. So I went, I talked, I went on the defense because, as we know, when we go to dealerships, you always want to go in very cautious and don't let people take advantage. But I wanted to take the information, and I went to several other people that knew the type of car that I wanted to buy. And I was not going to buy that day. I needed to go talk to some other folks, so I felt good about my decision. And it frustrated the salesperson because they want to make the sale. It was towards the end of the month. They needed that number. And so to be respectful of that person's personality, I told him, I need to talk to a few other people, but I'm going to get back to you on this day at this time. And you could see him relax a little. Did I owe him that? No, but it's just a give and take, which is what this is all about. I don't People like me, they don't like to take too many risks. Now, can I make emotional decisions? Absolutely. But I'm slow to make changes. I'm still on the older iPhone. I'm not the one that gets the newest one every time. And I am deeply loyal to the people I care about. I don't have a ton of friends, but the ones I do, I'm there for you. I am there for you. I will seek to maintain that status quo, which is in my consulting, makes me uncomfortable when we have to step out of that status quo, but I do it because it's the right thing for the client. And I consider everyone in the decision-making process. So you might get someone that says, well, hey, thanks, Tony. I appreciate you sending this over, but guess what? I just want to make sure that Nicole and Kim and Joan and John also get a chance to take a look at this, and I need for them to get back to me. And for you to get an answer from me, well, when would that be? I'm going to have to say, well, as soon as they do and they get back to me, I'll let you know. And that's incredibly frustrating to a salesperson because you want to kind of get that deadline, but relators might not give you that deadline. And if you push them to give you a deadline, you might miss the sale because I can maybe go to somebody else with the same product that I didn't find as pushy or annoying, right? And I might even pay more for it just because I didn't like the way that I was being pushed into a sale, even if it's the right thing for me. Okay. So I'm being a little vulnerable here. So again, you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right types of personalities. And as you talk to folks, you're going to realize what types they are depending, because we all have a sense and a wherewithal that we're aware of these types of personalities. We often misunderstand our own awareness. So we might not always know our audience. And when I was in HR and I would bring in vendors or resources to consider for whether it's benefits or whatever we were looking for, if they had a product that we wanted, and I told them that we have 30 minutes to talk about this, and they came on strong, they were getting to the point, they didn't even read the room. The three partners, I could tell by my peripheral vision, they already gave up on him. And it was within 5 minutes. And they said, hey, listen, I've got another meeting, but Kim, why don't you take over? And I'm like, okay, you left me with the bull, the one that's kind of pushing here. And so I was honest with them. I said, listen, we did tell you 30 minutes. You came on, you didn't ask any questions. You didn't ask them anything about the partners, what they were looking for. And I don't know if we're going to make the sale. And of course they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I would love to, have a second chance. And the partners were out. I didn't like the rigidity of the partners at the time, but they were out and that person lost the sale. We went with another person and it cost us around the same, but it was about the personalities. And so some people say, the product and the service is more important. That may be, but people have an impact, whether it's negative or positive. So as we go through these, I want you to think about the ones that you are, but also how do you become malleable to your client? Because it is about you, but it's mostly about them. So if they're a driver and you're a relator, you're not going to sit there and tell them stories. They don't want to hear it. They do not want to hear it. An influencer and relator might get into too much talking and not enough about the details, and that holds the sale back. The evaluator, if you're trying to talk stories, they're like, I still have like 10 questions. Can we get to those? Right? And you just got to remember, how do I have to change how I'm thinking so I can work with the person sitting in front of me? So let's talk a little bit about overcoming those communication barriers. And I also want to add that at the end, please stay on and ask any questions of maybe even challenges that you want to be, that needs navigating, and I'd be happy to work through it with you. So you 100% do not impose your style. You have to adapt to the client's needs and their style. And if some people might say, I don't always know what their style is, well, you're going to learn by trial and error. So if you've talked to them on the phone, were they quick? Did they cut you off? Did they say, okay, I got a hard stop at 5 minutes. So tell me what you got. You got a driver. You have a driver. So you better get going and you better know what you're going to be saying, because they're going to cut you off in 5 minutes. They have that hard stop, they'll hang up. And you want to pay attention to body language when you're in front of them. and to ask all the right questions to uncover the buyer motivations. And I'm telling you stuff that you already know on buyer motivations, but at the same time, are they sitting back and just kind of losing eye contact with you? Not everybody is going to be as forthright as a driver, but they might just start to have these exit cues that you can say, oh, I might be going down the wrong path here. What is it that I need to have you know right now so that I'm going in the right direction? And most times they'll perk up and they'll be like, okay, well, I'm kind of one of those people that need more data. So I give me some more details about this because I was told to come to this meeting and I don't even really know what it's, I know that I'm supposed to buy this, but I don't know, I got to ask some questions here. You can readjust absolutely by being curious and intentionally listening to not only their body language, but their tone and how they're kind of acting while you are speaking. Listening actively and adjust your approach accordingly. There was a study done that almost 80% of people out there do not actively listen. And it erodes relationships in your personal life, and it erodes relationships at work, causes a lot of workplace drama. I do that presentation all the time, and it comes down to these communication barriers. And with salespeople, remember I was kind of giving you that example of the person that had the 30 minutes. He wasn't paying attention. He wasn't actively listening, and he wasn't aware of his audience, and he lost them, and he lost the sale. There was nothing I could do about it. So you must pay attention to your client. And some people say, well, that's pretty obvious, Kim. That's what we do. But I want you to think about some of the applications that you can do for your clients. Maybe the ones that went really well, and maybe the ones that didn't go really well. So think about this as you're listening. Who are my top salespeople, and why are they successful? Is it our organization? Is it our product? Is it our service? Sure. But the fourth piece that's missing is how they handle the client. So if they're too pushy, maybe the client's like, okay, we need it out of desperation. I'll just take it and, can go away after this. It might not create a long-term relationship. Okay. So you got to develop those adaptive sales scripts for each style. So for instance, a driver, get in there, say what it is, and get out. I'm being a little extreme, but you know what I mean. For those evaluators, give them the details. Don't wait for them to ask. An influencer, you got to ask them about them. They want to know, and you see a picture of their daughter in volleyball. Just say, hey, I see that your daughter's in sports, mine too. Leave it at that and be more curious about them. They like to be asked about them. They like to talk. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, but there are two personality types that do it better: relators and influencers. So if you have somebody that might just go, yep, my daughter's in volleyball, skip it. Right? That was your cue. They don't want to talk about it. Maybe they're an evaluator and they want to just get to the point, right? And so there might be a little bit of dipping your toe in the water, and really kind of finding out, the best way to approach things. But the best way at the end of the day is to ask, how do you like to, how do you like to be communicated with? How can I, what's the most effective way for you? Text, email, phone call, whatever the case, in-person meetings, ask them. Don't assume. Even with a driver, with any personality type, you still can ask. I might say, listen, don't call me 15 times a day and ask me where we're at. I will follow up with you. Don't follow up with me. And that kills a salesperson when you hear that, because they want to know what the answer is. And you want to track and analyze your successful client interactions. So you think about, who was my best client? Who do I have the best relationship with, and why? Because some people can get the sale that they pay more money for. And it's like, wait a minute, I have a product that's the same exact thing or better, but they paid more for something of lesser value. Why did that happen? There may be some favoritism out there, but aside from all that, they're complete strangers. It's usually a personality clash or a congruency that works. Okay. And they know that they're going to be calling, Nicole for something instead of Kim, because Kim was she cut me off too many times. She wasn't listening. She wasn't paying attention. I gave her 30 minutes. She took 45. Those kinds of things. They can turn it off, and it's that easy. And it sounds trivial, but it makes or breaks the sale. So try doing some of those exercises. So here, we want you to identify your community. your communication style. You want to assess the personality styles for the clients, but in your own way. Again, you're not going to give them an assessment, but knowing these traits, and I can give you ones at a glance if you're interested. It's a download. We can make sure that you get that. They are traits that everybody uses that you're like, okay, there's about 2 of the 10. I'm gonna go with this one because it's definitely worth having a little bit of a GPS to get you in the right direction, even if you have to pivot. Okay. Practice active listening and mirroring techniques. What I mean by that is, like I said earlier, you're listening not with the intent to answer their questions, but to only hear and really absorb what they're saying. Because if you don't, you're going to miss the opportunity of those little micro moments and what they're saying that could make or break the sale. Now, if you adapt your pitch to suit their style, you're good. So I had to present to a board one time and I said, give me the personality types of the people there. Tell me about them. It had nothing to do with the information I was giving, but I wanted to know who was my audience. There was going to be, I think, 7 people. And thank goodness I did, because most of them were drivers. Okay, so I got to the point, but I also gave opportunity for people to kind of ask questions at the end. And they did come up to me and they said that was great, but I did my homework. Now, did it happen every time? No. And I could see people kind of pivoting and kind of looking at their watch. You know, those are things that then distracted me and got me off my game. And I want to make sure that that didn't happen again. So continuously refine your approach based on feedback. You can say, if you didn't get the sale, ask why. Say, is there a reason why? You know, what could I have done better? Whatever the case may be, depending on your industry. If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. But most times it does matter. And I always say, be more curious than not, and listen intently. Pay attention to those cues, and always, always, always try to find out about those personalities before you get into their location and get in front of them, and so that you're just a little bit more prepared. So a couple of things, I wanted to give an example of like the influencer. It's actually a friend of mine, and I love her to death. She has a heart of gold, but she does not understand her audience. And so she came to me the other day and she goes, Kim, I don't understand. Like my husband said I was annoying to people. And I've known her for a lot of years. And I said, well, that's a little harsh, but I got to be honest with you. When people are talking, you cut them off. And when they say something about themselves, you're always filling in about the example that matches theirs, but you're using your own life and your kids as examples. Sometimes people just want to talk and they don't want to hear about how it works for you as well. So if you try that, it might help you with feeling a little less, distant from them. And, you're not left out of the invitation or whatever the case may be, because people are hard, they're complex. And I know we went through this a little on the quick side, but these are things, if you can just pay attention to, just have some self-awareness and pay attention to those clients' cues, I promise you, and we can go into, if you're ever interested, we could do a deeper dive into this training, because it's a lot more fun when you really, role play and try and figure out other people's, the way they tick and the way they, what they want and how they move in life. And if you are a salesperson and you're up against quotas and you want to give the client what is best for them, then this is the best way to do it, is learn about people. So now's the time. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. If I can be of any support to you, please let me know. Here's my email address, my phone number, and I'd be happy to have a conversation either after this or at another time. If you have anything you want to discuss, I'm happy to do that with you.